engaging in art can actually help you live longer. I mean, there's been studies that prove this. So it's like, why isn't everybody investing in art? Like,
Literally, that doesn't shock me at all.
But it's like you're in the zone. You can feel it when you're doing something creative. I think what people don't understand is that artists are true entrepreneurs, and they are solving problems all day long. And the art world, both in what I've seen in the performing arts, but also in my experience with visual artists, has changed dramatically.
Hey, y'all. Welcome back to Through with a Splash of Tea, a podcast where conversation is key. Today, we are joined by an incredible art connoisseur, Jean Mineo. I'd like to open today's episode with words from Jean that I found beautiful when discovering. Jean said, "I'm passionate about exploring arts outside of conventional venues, guided by a belief in the arts to change, enhance, and inform the way we think about and interact with the world around us. Whether in a community arts center setting, artist cooperative gallery, public art installation, or open studio in an unconventional venue, my life's work has focused on creating opportunities for artists while seeking ways to engage people for whom the arts might seem irrelevant or inaccessible." That's so good. You're so welcome. That's beautiful. And I don't typically start with quotes from people, but I stumbled across these and I was like, oh my goodness, like this depicts her passion like no other. So of course, thank you for coming and talking to us today. Okay, Jean, I like to start with people's background because I think that speaks to a lot of who people are today. So give us a little insight on your dynamic growing up, your background, originally where you're from, and then we can transition into the art world.
I actually grew up down the street in Needham.
Oh, perfect. Very good.
And I'm not far from there now. But it was interesting that it was my art teacher in high school that really inspired me to pursue a career in the arts. And after high school, I went to get an art degree, a Bachelor of Fine Arts, but I knew I'd have to support myself. So I went more into the commercial, industrial, and interior design side of it. But I went to the Rochester Institute of Technology, which has a school for American craftsmen. So they have studios for glass, for wood, for metal, for ceramics. So I was surrounded by these incredible artists. And after school, I went into corporate design for about 5 years, and I missed artists. Like I needed to get closer to them. So I decided to shift gears completely and look at the nonprofit realm and went for a master's degree in arts management. I did that at American University in DC, and I had worked for I had interned for a national nonprofit organization, and it was also informative because I think the board members flew in like once a year to have an in-person meeting, and you never touched the constituents. And I realized that didn't serve me or my soul, and I couldn't work in an organization like that. That's part of what really drove me to work more directly with artists in community-based arts organizations. That's what feeds me, even today.
Would you say so you work alongside artists, but would you say at the core of it that you were always an artist yourself, or is that something that you had to learn to develop, like your ability to not only respect and want art to grow, but the artist within you? Or how did that person come to fruition, or is that person still coming to fruition?
Yeah, still. I would not consider myself an artist at all, although I love the creative process, and you get in a zone when you do creative work, and I'm sure you feel that too. But I don't have enough time to devote to making art today. Mm-hmm. So, but it's funny, I take my team once a year. My mom is an artist. She has a studio in Fort Point. Once a year at the end of the season, we celebrate by going to her studio and just making art and being creative together. And then I make a book out of it, out of Shutterfly. And it turns out everybody is kind of, they're all a bunch of foodies too. So instead of like exchanging tchotchkes at the holidays, we exchange recipes. So you bring the food dish and you exchange the recipes, put the recipes and the artwork in a book and, give it back to the team. So I do creative things, but not necessarily what I would have thought I'd be doing.
That is so good. Oh my God, I love that. Okay. Take us through your journey a little bit and share with us how you got into art administration and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah. So after getting my master's degree, I came back to the Boston area. And it's so interesting. I was hired by a community-based visual arts organization, which felt very comfortable. And I was hired, I think, in September. And by January, the executive director announced a financial crisis. I'm like, why did you hire me? Like, I don't get it. But out of that, he was let go. And so was all the other staff, except for the two of us who were tied to the revenue-generating programs, which was the educational side of it. So they were looking for a volunteer to become an executive director, and they couldn't find anybody, which is not surprising. So I stepped into that role and learned. It was true baptism by fire, and we pulled the organization out of a financial hole for sure. And that the board stepped up and had a lot of support, and I was there for 10 years.
Wait, but we have to dive into that. So, yeah, so it was just me and somebody other person, and we completely rearranged things. That is a complete shift. So when you realize that it's a very small team now, it's you and maybe one other person, I know it's either sink or swim, but how did you end up swimming? How did you not just say, hey, I can just go somewhere else? I have these skills to go somewhere else.
When you see what art does for people who engage with it, you can't let that go. You can't walk away from that. And it's too important. And access to the arts is, I think, what's been driving so much of my work, and even does today, and having it accessible in your community. And so I think that was really a big motivating factor. And then having the support around me, a supportive board and leadership that could help mentor me in that situation as a new graduate, was also really beneficial.
Why is art important for communities?
There's so much research about art now that's really helpful, but back then we didn't know these things about the neuroscience behind what happens to your body when you engage in a creative pursuit. But it's starting to come out now. Engaging in art can actually help you live longer. I mean, there's been studies that prove this. So it's why isn't everybody investing in art?
Literally, that doesn't shock me at all.
But it's you're in the zone. You can feel it when you're doing something creative. Even if it's not only that you have to produce the art yourself, just attending an event, for example, or a theater production or a concert will help you. And we're even at this point, the Bellforge Arts Center, where I am today, there's this interesting program that's just rolled out in Massachusetts called Art Pharmacy. And we were accepted into that program. And now doctors are prescribing cultural experiences to address mental, emotional, and physical issues. And the insurance companies are paying for that, which is amazing. Huge. It's huge. So it's kind of, that's this evolution of understanding the impact of experiencing something creative.
When I think of the growth and development of the medical field or of just human medicine, I always am quick to think of technology and how technology has advanced us so greatly. But never have I thought of how art has changed your mental space. Because like you said, when you go and see a play or something, how you feel, it's not your normal feeling of your day to day. You literally feel different. It feels better. You feel not safe, but it just feels.
And you're also in community, physically in community with other people experiencing something similar. Now you may have different beliefs or different whatever, but you have a starting point because you had the same shared experience, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Art is so powerful.
It absolutely is.
Oh my God.
I agree with you.
Literally
check. I love that.
Oh gosh. So in 2015, you helped create the Cultural Alliance of Medfield. I want to know a little bit of that backstory and what drove you to do that.
Yeah. So at the time, I was wrapping up my 6 years with the Medfield Cultural Council. So every community has a local cultural council. That's how the state distributes funds to every community. After 6 years, you have to step off of that. What I was seeing out of that work was a lot of silos in town between different organizations. And I felt like we could do so much more if we collaborated and came together. We could do exponentially better. And the folks on the Cultural Council weren't interested in taking on anything other than this redistribution of funds. So I started a nonprofit to do it myself.
She's like, okay,
I'll do it. Yeah. And so what we did out of that was temporary public art projects. So, for example, I collaborated with the library when they were doing an all community reads one book. And I brought in an artist who did interpretations from that book. And they actually cut the language out of paper and wrapped telephone poles with it for about a mile. And so it was beautiful graphics, but it was also powerful messaging. So if you were walking by and you wanted to understand the message, there was information there for you to find. If you were just driving by, you would see something visually down the road that was gorgeous. We also did a sculpture installation in our local cemetery because they were interested in having people not just use it for burials. They wanted to be a cultural resource for the community. So the sculptures were placed around in ways that drew people through the space and had you appreciate different aspects of this outdoor resource that you might not have gone in otherwise. Yeah. So it's those kinds of things that got us off the ground, and I think developed a ton of relationships in the community. And we also worked with the business community to redevelop a pocket park in town. And out of that, I think, there was a lot of trust developed, and that helped us or served us well when we came to the point of trying to get a long-term lease for a home for the arts in Bellforge, for the performing arts in town. So
that transitions beautifully. As you start there, then you're able to then grow Bellforge.
Yeah.
Your work is very focused on fostering collaboration and meaningful dialogue through art. Can you share with us a specific experience that displays that?
Yeah, we did this amazing project with youth in our community, and it was as we were coming out of the pandemic, and we partnered with a local organization in town. It's Medfield Outreach, which is a municipal department that works a lot with youth in our community, which actually has rates of substance abuse higher than the state averages. So there's quite a bit of work to be done there. And then we also partnered with Spoke, a Boston arts organization, and we had to start on Zoom, unfortunately, but that's where we were. And we engaged in a ton of conversation with the kids. Ultimately, we were going to do a public art installation of some sort, and it could have been anywhere. But for the kids, it turned out that the Medfield State Hospital, where Bellforge is located, was very impactful for them in the pandemic because it was one of the few open spaces that was available to them to gather in a way. They would park in circles and sit in their trunks to talk to each other just because that's how they could communicate and see each other when you couldn't physically be together. So it was very important to the kids that it be at the state hospital. And what they found were benches that were around, and we wound up taking the benches up, and the kids put put their words into mosaics. So they were working with Amanda Shea, who's an amazing spoken word artist. And out of that, their words were embedded in mosaics that they made on the backs of these benches. And so we lifted the benches up from their various locations, and they had 4 benches that faced each other. So on this campus that was actually designed to exclude people from society, they created a place of gathering and inclusion. I was just blown away. And it's so beautiful. It's there today, and we installed it in a way that we'll be able to take them up and install them at Bellforge at some point when the rest of the campus is under construction. So they will always have a home there.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah. The kids were spectacular.
Do you
very
enjoy
impressive
with the youth?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm still part of a team it's called Medfield Cares About Prevention, and Bellforge is a partner in that. For example, when we have kid-focused events, we don't set up our bar or have any alcohol available. It's just, have an event that if it's family-focused and there's children present, there is an alcohol present. So it speaks to working together collaboratively to address an issue in town, even if it's not, lifting arts per se. It's addressing other things with being a good community partner.
Right. And that, I feel like that also shows your values in the community as well. Like, hey, we understand that this might be something that people are struggling with. So if this is going to be kid focused, it's going to be kid focused.
Exactly.
Shirley Temple. Apple juice on the rocks.
There you go.
Okay. Now let's talk about the obstacles of it all. In growing anything, any business, anything that you like to grow, there are a bunch of roadblocks. So let's talk about how you focus and how you deal with obstacles that you face in your day-to-day.
People will tell you that I'm very persistent.
It sounds like it. Yes.
I mean, for the Bellforge, we've been at it for almost 10 years. So when the hospital had closed in 2003, the town was able to buy the property in 2014, and then we started a master planning process, which was about a very intensive community engagement process, which was very much like a public art process. And that took 4.5 years. But out of that, we were able to successfully secure a 99-year lease with our town for the 2 buildings in the open space that's around it. So that's the first phase of Bellforge, where we are today, designed for performing arts. But I think to speak to obstacles, typically what I find is that it's people that don't appreciate the arts and what it can do, right? So they think either art is frivolous, or maybe they were told you're not creative in life or something. And so they don't take it seriously. And we've tried to make an economic case. We actually worked through the Americans for the Arts does an arts and economic prosperity study. And so I attended every cultural event in town for a year and surveyed people about their spending habits. So we know exactly what people spend when they attend a cultural event. I would like to do that study again after Bellforge opens, because I think we're going to see it go up. But trying to make an economic case, now trying to make a health and wellness case, it's that has felt like it's hard. That's hard. That's been an obstacle.
It's like a constant battle.
Yeah.
And I can understand why people, why a lot of Americans might find it hard to prioritize the arts, because even in school, like, art isn't extracurricular. But don't get me wrong, gym is extracurricular as well. But everybody wants to be an NFL player. Not everyone wants to be Basquiat. So there's a different level of importance that we assign to different extracurriculars. And art doesn't get the level of importance that it should.
I agree with you completely.
Like, it's not fair.
You're exactly right.
But I don't think it's only the U.S., but in a lot of other countries, art is valued greater than the U.S. values art. And that's something that it's worth dissecting. And it's worth wanting to change, because art can help us so much.
Absolutely. And that's why I feel like working in a community setting has been, because you see it.
Yeah.
You see it. So Bellforge right now can only do programming outside of these buildings that have been empty since 2003. So our season is April through October, mostly free events every week. In the spring and the fall, it's on Saturdays. In the summer, we ship to weeknights. But it's been amazing to see families come together. And it could be 3 generations, grandparents, kids, and the parents. And they are relaxing together and enjoying something. We have lawn games. We have food trucks. You can hang out together. And we're not seeing these people with their face in their phones. And I'm like, this matters. This matters a lot.
Yes. Any environment that can cultivate like true connection and like even just a detachment from your phone, like that's huge. That's like be present, be in the moment. And we're getting so far from that with the advancement of technology, which is beautiful, but we also need community.
I agree with you.
It's so important.
Yeah, that's what. So we're in the off season right now, and I'm just itching. Like, keep going. Come on. I miss my peeps.
Oh my gosh. We touched base on this a little bit, but I'm gonna ask it again because you might have a different response for it. But How do you think art affects community growth and development, either in the best fashion or the most, or how do you think it affects the community?
With a very simple answer, it just brings people together. Period.
It creates it. It creates community.
Absolutely. It creates it around these shared experiences. And what's been so interesting for me is that this first phase is focused on the performing arts. So we have 2 buildings. One was what was originally the chapel. So you can imagine a big, voluminous space. And the second building will be 16 classrooms on 3 floors. And we're going to build an addition that will physically connect the 2. So that was important to me to have both buildings, because what you find is nonprofits are typically constrained by space and they focus on either education or on performances. We can do both. And to think about supporting a student where they're just picking up an instrument or learning voice or dance or theater or writing or whatever it might be, to where performers are starting to launch a career. I mean, it's 300 seats, not a big, huge venue, but it's enough.
Yeah.
And all of the training, the education, and quite frankly, the community that needs to support that work, we can do all of that at Bellforge. So it's super exciting. And then we have a future phase to do the same thing for visual artists and culinary arts on the same campus.
Wow. What you're building is just, it's everything to pour into the artist, but any type of artist. You don't just have to be a sculpturist. You don't just have to be a dancer. You don't.
Correct. And I feel like having these 3 modalities in such close proximity that we're really setting the stage for collaboration. So we can't even imagine, just because they're going to bump it into each other and the guitar player will be out on the lawn, eating a snack or whatever. It's like, it's incredible. And the thing about this campus, it's 87 acres, but it also is touched by the Bay Circuit Trail, which is 230 miles of trails, and the Charles River. And there's all this open space, and there's 2 agricultural fields that are fallow, but in the culinary arts, we'd like to bring one back for food production and have the whole farm to table aspect in the way that we're supporting performing artists, support the culinary artists, just to be able to do all of that on the same campus within walking distance of each other. It's just, we have to try. We have to try.
Absolutely. It's worth it.
You're going to have to come see it.
I want to go now. You want to go now? Oh my goodness. So ideally for you, when would you like the development of the entire kit and caboodle to be here, to be in fruition?
So we're really focused on getting the first phase underway, and we're very close. So we have $1 million challenge pledge right now. So when we raise that $1 million, it'll be matched dollar for dollar. And when that pledge comes in, we will essentially be at the financial goal where the board will greenlight our construction. So I'm going through all of the hearings right now, the planning board, the Board of Health, the Historic District Commission, the Select Board, get all of that out of the way so that when we hit that goal, we're also preparing our bid package and our construction documents are done. So we're ready to go. Hopefully by June, July, we're under construction. And then the architects have estimated a 16-month construction process. It's possible we could open at the end of 26, maybe it's early 27. And then we move on to phase 2. But we'll have to raise money for that too. Now, what's been amazing is that Bellforge, the 2 buildings we have, sit in the middle of this campus that has 35 buildings. And there's a developer who will redevelop the 27 buildings that surround us for 334 housing units, 25% affordable, and they're committing 10% of those affordable units for artists. So artists will not only work there, they'll be able to live there too, which is, this developer's Trinity Financial has been such an incredible partner for Bellforge. And I think they see us as an amenity for their future residents. And so we've been working very closely together with them. They're also, we've already talked together and collaborated on where this second phase will be, which is partially going to be on property that they will purchase and allow us to build on for the culinary and visual artists.
Wow.
So unusual, right? That for an arts organization to have such a friendly developer and so much space. So the other thing about this campus with all this trails and open spaces, but we also don't feel limited by our buildings, because we want to be thinking also about how the art can engage people with the land. And going back to some of the earlier conversations and comments about art and health and wellness, again, being able to be in community and be outside and engaged through art, whether it's public art or festivals or, food experiences and different cultural opportunities. It's just we have to try.
It's so worth, this must come to fruition. It must happen.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Lift it up. Tell everyone you know. Oh gosh. What would you say are some common misconceptions when it comes to the art world, whether it be artists, art itself?
We touched on this a little bit in terms of it being seen as more frivolous,
yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I think what people don't understand is that artists are true entrepreneurs, and they are solving problems all day long. And the art world, both in what I've seen in the performing arts, but also in my experience with visual artists, has changed dramatically. So whereas you used to have galleries that would financially support artists in order to sell their work, they don't do that anymore. Where you used to have record labels that would support musicians, you don't have those anymore. Everything has changed. So the artists are not only producing their work, they have to figure out how to show it, how to market it, sell their own merchandise, everything. And they're constantly solving these problems. So I would lift up artists as some of the most impressive entrepreneurs I've ever seen.
We don't make that connection enough.
Yeah.
Because truly they are. We've all heard about the starving artist, but we don't think about, yes, how does an artist not become that starving or get out of that starvation? You have to become the entrepreneur.
That's right.
You have to do everything.
That's right. Even more so today than it was 30 or 40 years ago.
And that's a story of resilience like no other. We'll boast people that work in Wall Street and XYZ, but to have your passion drive you, just passion, not finances, but passion drive you, and then being able to build the finances.
Which is why, so going back to the plan for this first phase of Bellforge, being able to support a creative through that whole process, that's the whole idea behind it. And then to be able to do that for visual artists, which is studio space for artists. We've surveyed the kids in the high school. They all want access to these maker spaces and shared equipment that they don't get anymore. And then classrooms for anybody to explore their creativity, plus a gallery to be able to show and sell the work. So it's, again, that whole arc of support for creatives in whichever modality you're choosing to work in. We can do all of that on this amazingly huge property.
Oh my gosh, literally, soups and nuts, all in one location. That's amazing. With the rise of digital media and the advancements of technology, how do you feel, or how do you foresee the art world shifting, evolving, or changing due to those two elements?
I hope it doesn't. Right? I hope it doesn't, because I still feel like the physical experience of it and that physical experience of doing it in community is what matters. And I think you lose that in the digital realm.
What are your thoughts on AI?
I'm a little concerned. But I also feel like, the creative process is just such a basic human need in some ways that I think it can't ever go away completely.
That's so true. Art's been here since before
cave painters, right?
Yeah, it wasn't simply communication; it was art as well.
That's right.
So we can advance AI as much as we want, but we can never fully do away with it. We'd be so sad.
That's right. We would be in a very different place as a society. Not for the better.
At all. Oh
I'm with you.
Looking back at your career, what do you think thus far is your greatest achievement, or one of your greatest achievements?
Oh gosh, it's the next one. It's Bellforge.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is big. But I have the most amazing team, and I think lifting them up to and mentoring them to a place where they have taken this vision to be so much more than what I ever could have imagined. It's exponential. And so that's, that feels really good.
Let's talk about your team a little bit. How big is your team? Who's on your team? Why are they so important to you? If your team left you tomorrow, could you still?
No, I couldn't. No, the answer is no. So there's 3 of us who are full-time, and it's myself and 2 people who are tied to the development, the fundraising side, because this is a $30 million project, just this first phase. And then we have 3 other people who are involved in community engagement and the programming side of it, as well as working with vendors, collaborating with other kinds of arts organizations who want to also bring their artwork to Bellforge and through Bellforge. So it's been amazing. And I think some of that is shifting. Some of the programming is also shifting more to full-time as we are anticipating opening, because we're going to grow exponentially in staff when that happens. But everybody is so aligned together around this mission that it's just such a tight group. It's really, I mentioned I work 7 days a week, but I enjoy it.
Yes.
And that is in large part due to the team. And the board has been super supportive and helpful and has a lot of different expertise that they can bring to this project, which is really complex as a historic preservation and as something that's, acoustically very sensitive, but is also very much about programming and community development. So there's so many different aspects to it that it takes a lot of people around a table.
Yes, many hats, many brains.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we can't ever just grow solely by ourselves. We can't.
No, and it's so much better for having other people's vision at the table.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because people will bring up things that you didn't even think about.
Absolutely. Start with a seed of an idea, and then it goes,
Yes.
and my staff will laugh at me because I always say yes. Whatever it is, I just say yes, because you never know where it's going to go. And they're like, would you stop saying that?
That makes me want to transition into your other hat, for you being a mom. Is that the same? Was that the same when the kids were growing up? Would you always say yes?
Something to know. My kids would say no.
You're an automatic no. Please come back to me.
But they're also amazing human beings. So I'm so proud of both of them.
Are they into art as well?
Not so much.
Ooh.
No. I thought actually my son originally had thought he would explore architecture. And I said, I totally see you. He's got like the engineering side and the creative side. And then he didn't. He went into a completely different direction.
That's typically what happens. That's what ends up happening.
She's in medicine. She takes after her dad. So
beautiful. I mean, hey, that's good. That's great.
They're more creative in their own ways, growing up. So.
I love that. What advice do you have to somebody that is looking to support the arts industry? How you have impacted it so greatly?
Just get started.
Just go.
Just do it. Just do it. And collaborations I think are a great way to start something. For us going back to collaborations with other organizations, but bringing the arts to that table, I thought was very impactful, and I guess very supportive of how we were able to get through a town meeting vote to get a 99-year lease and then get through the state legislature for the approval processes, like all of that. It's all about relationships, really. And that starts through collaborations. And the arts are a great way to do it.
I want to touch base on that 99-year lease for a second. Is that a norm in building industry, or?
I'm not sure, but because we knew this was going to be such an expensive project, nobody's going to commit their dollars and their philanthropy to a short-term lease. It doesn't work. So, and the town would never have taken on this project to create an art center themselves. So, out of that master planning process, when people said, if you can only save one building, because these buildings were built in the 1896, they're old, but they're so beautifully crafted. Like you never build them like this again. So it's impactful to save them, and it's the responsible development route versus tearing them all down and doing something more generic. So it was important to pursue it.
What do you want your legacy to be, Jean?
Probably my team.
What? That's such a great answer.
Oh, my team. And if they can go out in the world and do more and also, mentor other people, that's it. It's all about people. It's all about relationships. Yeah, that's the bottom line.
Why do you think that's so hard for people to digest, though?
I think people have a harder time with it today just because we talked a little bit about digital, and, it's taken us away from having in-person conversations because you can text somebody or whatever. You don't, How often do you call your friends on their birthday anymore? Go out to celebrate. You just send them a text or it's through Facebook or whatever. It's like, no.
Horrid.
No, that doesn't feed my soul. So
I want to know what upcoming, I know that we are still working on getting phase 1 of Bellforge complete. So what are after that is rounded up, what are your first elements that you're looking forward to once phase 1 is done? Or are we going straight into getting phase 2 approved? Is that how it goes? Or what do you?
Yeah, there'll be some steps in between. So the question for phase 2 is how much space can we get?
Ooh.
Because you can't do your architectural schematics and feasibility studies until you know how much space you have. So that part we actually did it on 8 buildings in the core of the campus all around Bellforge originally. That was my plan. I was going to take it over. All of it. It's all of it. The developer's like, well, we have another idea, but we're going to give you some space and land to build it new, elsewhere. So depending on how much we get, we will then do the schematics for those spaces. I'm actually going to be touring a group of visual artists through tomorrow to get their input on the kinds of spaces that would be important to them to inform what the plans will become. So there'll be a little bit of that first, and then once you kind of understand what the design is, then you can also get to your pricing. So you have your campaign goal, and then you launch right into your fundraising. Sure.
Wow. You just have so much. This is a story of persistence like no other.
That's why you need an amazing team. Board and staff. It's been incredible. Yeah.
So if, say, this is somebody's first time hearing about Bellforge and they'd like to visit or they'd like to donate or how can people connect? How can people go? How can people?
Yeah, so check out the website, which is bellforge.org. And our spring and I think some of the summer season is posted there. So under events, because we're outdoor events only, we do ask people to RSVP so that if we had a rain date or some lineup changes or something, we can communicate with you. But it's not required. You can just show up. Again, most things are free. So the schedules are there. We'd like to end an hour before sunset because there's no electricity on this campus, so everything gets very dark very quick. So it's earlier in the spring and the fall, a little later in the summer. But you can just check out the events there. There's ways to contribute through the website too.
Are you proud of who you are today?
That's a hard question to answer.
That's fair. That's fine.
I am proud of the work that we've been able to do so far.
I love that. So I'm going to wrap up with our final question. And this is a question that I ask everybody. Okay, so I created this platform for people to learn about themselves, learn about the world, learn about their passions, learn about just learn. I need people to learn. I need to learn. I don't need who I need to learn. Myself, I need to learn. So I want to always give people a platform to just tell me something that they wish more people knew. What is something that you wish that more people knew, either about the world, about themselves, about Bellforge, about art? Just what's something that you wish more people knew?
That art can transform your life. Period. Do it. Just do it.
Create it.
Find a way. Yeah. And whether you're intimidated and don't want to create it yourself, go experience it. To your point, you will be physically altered in a good way every time.
It's like a true feeling. You'll feel it.
Yes, you feel it. You feel it. You're right.
Feel it. Any closing statements that you want to make about Bellforge? I need to come and visit.
Please.
Perfect.
Yeah. It's been so, again, my team is amazing to think about how they do things just designed for kids. We lift youth by having youth vendors sell their wear if they're making stuff, and it's so sweet, honestly, guys. Our first event is an Enchanted Spring. You will see kids in costumes and face painting, and we're going to do a treasure hunt on the campus, and all these kinds of activities geared towards the kids. And then we have singer-songwriters. We will have a Pride Festival. We will have a Juneteenth Festival. We will be introducing movies this year. So there's all kinds of activities. And it's been really gratifying, again, to see that last year alone, and we had about 20 events. We had to cancel some there was high heat indexes and rain and whatever. But in about 20 events, we had 12,000 people from 520 zip codes. So what's been exciting to see is it's really proof of concept, and to see it blossom and know that people will travel for these experiences has been incredibly uplifting, right? Because you just keep going.
Yes, and fulfilling.
Yes, exactly. That's a good word.
So fulfilling. And like, you built it and they came. Like, if you built it, they will come. They came. You built it, and
that was the question the very first year. So that we've done 3 seasons outdoor, just April to October, but then the first year is like, was anybody going to come to an abandoned state mental hospital food cultural experience? And they did. And it's just kept growing, which has been really awesome. And we think about this Bellforge Triangle because of where we're located. It's Boston, Providence, and Worcester. So we have 3 cities to draw from, not only for performers and artists, but for the audiences as well.
Yes, definitely. And Providence is such like an art city.
It is.
I went to school at JWU for like 2 years, and like just being in Providence, Providence loves
it. Oozes it. It oozes it.
Like, you can't get away from it.
That's right.
And you don't want to.
That's right.
The street art, the sculptures,
That's right.
Providence is all about it, and I love that.
Yeah.
Boston has great artists as well, but Providence, they're like, you're swimming in that.
Well, I was at an event last night that was talking about the challenges of live workspace for artists in Boston, Cambridge, and Somerville, and it is huge. We are losing millions of square feet of space to support creatives, to the point where, unfortunately, the students that are graduating from Berkeley and Mass College of Art can't afford to live here, and they're leaving. We want to keep them, and we want to support them, and we want to help them develop, their art forms. So
it's so important. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Story. Yeah, I really, really appreciate it. I know you're so busy. You're so busy. I know you are.
Time to talk.
Yeah. As long as we're chatting. No. So I tell this to all my guests, but I mean it when I say it. So that's why I say it. We have to have you back. I always feel like within like the next year or 2, I could invite my guests back and we could talk about what they're doing.
That would be great. I'd love to.
So
thank you. Such a joy to meet you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you for watching if you watched. Thank you for listening if you listened. And you can catch Through with a Splash of Tea every Wednesday and Thursday on all streaming platforms. Bye now.